Hey guys, I'm Celia, and today I am here with the creator of Creepy Bangers, the amazing Dr. Tentacles. How's it going today?
It's going absolutely fantastic, Celia. Great to be here.
Amazing, amazing. I love the top hat. It just brings the entire outfit together, doesn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, I made a larger one for it. It kind of looks a little too goofy, so I'm not sure if I like it yet. So,
Well, I think that it's amazing. Well, we're going to say amazing a lot in this interview. I can tell already. So, Dr.
oh,
Tentacles, would you like to be called Dr. Tentacles for the interview or the amazing Dr. Tentacles? Because I can try and remember that.
if Dr. Tentacles is easier, that's
Okay.
fine. Or you can call me Doc or Doctor, that's fine too.
I'm gonna go with doctor. So, doctor, tell us a little bit about your background because, I have a feeling that people need to know the amazing lore that goes along with the amazing Doctor Tentacles.
Well, upon coming to this planet, I've been writing electronic music for about 20 years now in a variety of genres and names that people don't know about. So I preserved my anonymous nature, essentially because we have to put on masks whenever we perform for people. And whenever we do, if we have to put on masks to perform for people, if we're meeting an expectation, why not make it ridiculous?
I gotcha, and I know that we discussed the kind of music you make, and we went with creepy bangers. Where did that inspiration come from?
Well, I've always been drawn to dissonance in music. What's interesting is when I learned to play guitar a long time ago, um, I learned to tune by ear. I'd learned how to tune all six of my strings together just listening to it. But when I did, I was actually tuning low. I was actually tuning in chromatic, a completely different scale structure. So I've always had this desire to explore melodies that aren't quite the typical Western scales. And it's actually proven in music theory that dissonance is actually the greatest way to capture people's attention. So when I make a creepy banger, I'm really going to just grab you by the throat. So I make melodies that are unsettling because that dissonance speaks to me. I also like the dissonance of textures as well. I like mixing things that are organic with things that are not organic. I like hearing the contrast between that as well. And basically, my music wants to make people uncomfortable, but also want to move their feet. So that's about the summary of it right there.
I love the cross section of that because that's like similar to liking something like horror movies. You like that suspense in the music. And I know that dissonance is like something that you have to like figure out how to do correctly, and if you don't do it correctly, it doesn't work out. So understanding how that kind of works is very important, especially I guess in your music. So what what is your favorite like nerdy fact about dissonance that you figured out over the years?
Well, what's interesting is the notes we know as keys are actually frequencies that we haven't had fixed for a very long time. Only within the last century did we fixate on these very solid notes. Whereas many cultures through history, and the majority of cultures outside of our own, have had these melodies that are actually frequencies, that are actually measurements of tone that fall in between the notes that we know. So if you want to explore different scales, you have to go into sort of microtonal, and you have to sort of be ready to explore these very tight contrasts between just 1 or 2 hertz worth of difference, and end up we find out there's scales within scales, and it's just magical. It's very freeing as a producer myself.
That's really interesting. I like I feel like a lot of people get stuck in the like Western bubble of music, especially like obviously if you're living in countries that speak English. But what have some of your influences been in terms of music around the world, essentially? Because I know that in your music you have a lot of mixes of different concepts. You know what I mean? Do,
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that. Great question. I listen to a lot of Japanese composers. One of my favorites is Akira Yamaoka. You probably know him from the Silent Hill series. His music has a lot of kind of the contrast I'm talking about. He'll have something really pretty, like a guitar or a piano, over this very eerie soundscape or these very grinding industrial noises. You hear a lot of that on the upcoming video game soundtrack I'm doing. And I'm also a fan of Hirozawa Susumu. You might know him from the Berserk soundtrack. He has an album called White Tiger Field. It's absolutely amazing. He also did the music for the movie Paprika. That's a great anime, as well as Millennium Actress. I really like his music because he'll have these very big sounds. These very... this percussion that almost sounds like explosions over this very symphonic mix. I enjoy that, and I also got introduced to Egyptian pop somehow a long while back. I don't know if you know who Hakim is. Apparently an Egyptian pop star. I used to actually own a copy of Na by him, N-A-R. I really loved the melodies on that, and I like how their music is sort of a call and response in their songs, and I've done that in some of my music before as well. I like how one person sings it and the other person catches it and throws it back at them. I really enjoy concepts like that, and I've also played with African instruments as well. I've used marimbas, kalimbas. I used to have a thumb piano. I had a rain stick before. I've captured sounds from just about every instrument I've ever owned. I even have a homemade cajon drum up there. You can see the laser work on that little squid there. And so yeah, I'm very much a scientist of sound. I like to explore all the different sonic possibilities.
I have so many things that I can get into with that response, but we will return to the video game thing, but I want to talk a little bit about how you've referenced anime a bit. Are you an anime doctor? Do you watch a lot of anime?
Probably not as much as I should. My daughter's a big anime fan. I watched anime a lot in the 90s. The first anime I ever saw was Akira, and I watched it in subtitles.
Very cool, very cool. I guess that you are a sub, not a dub guy.
Yes.
I like that you bring that up because when I was in film school, I essentially was in a film history class, and they decided that it was going to be alternative film history. And the alternative film history turned into all right, we're going to watch basically Japanese spaghetti westerns. We're going to watch anime, and we're going to learn all about film from around the world instead of the standard typical American film. So it was interesting. It was very interesting. I didn't totally understand why we did that at the time, but looking back, I'm like, oh, wow, that really had me get a larger scope. So I think it's interesting, especially with the fact that people love anime, that you are incorporating, influences from Japan into the music that you're creating.
Yeah, I actually have a couple songs that are very Japanese inspired. Some I released in 2021. I have one called Murdered by Ninja. That one, the cover, you actually see a kitsune mask that I made out of EVA foam coming after me. That song's very dubsteppy, lots of bass. And then I have one I released right after that called Real Time Samurai that has that sort of call and response. And I made the synthesizer sound like a flute. So I'll sometimes write tracks to see what it sounds like to write a song that's inspired by that culture. That's a big source of inspiration for me, especially when I hear type of music I've never heard before. It's fantastic.
That is a really interesting and cool, essentially creative exercise, because you're picking up on the nuances of different cultures, but you're also making sure that you put your own spin on it, and you are learning and growing the way that you think about music. So I really love that that's kind of your inspiration. That's a really cool way to go about your writing style.
And one reason it's really benefited me, and this happened this year, and I didn't really realize this. I had a live track, a live song I performed in 2021. I've never done any promo on this track. I barely talked about it. I released it on a live album so people could hear my live show a year later. It's on Spotify right now. And this track's called Don't Go Into the Elevator. I found out this year that track got over 1 million social media impressions in India, and quite a few in Pakistan as well. They share a border, so I imagine that's probably how it happened. But I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize I guess I got linked onto a meme, because it was apparently Facebook in India. Facebook is a lot more prevalent in India, believe it or not. And so that was interesting. So when you also appeal and kind of explore the sounds of other cultures, you end up broadening your audience. You end up inviting everyone to the party. by not closing your worldview.
I love that, and that's really awesome that you went like essentially viral in a country that. Have you ever been there?
No, I've never been there.
That's really cool. I want to shift a little bit forward because I know you also do live performances, and like obviously you have a persona that you've created and you've been performing unknown to the public world of who you are for a number of years. What made you want to create a persona for your music?
Well, it started out as a collaboration with someone, and like a lot of collaborations, sometimes things fall through the cracks. Sometimes life happens. I don't think it was a falling out. I think he probably just life happened, you know. But so it started out as a sci-fi hip hop project, and then I had all these beats, and I wasn't doing anything with them. I tried to sell them on BeatStars, but I don't think they really appeal to them. And so I had this sci-fi persona we had dreamed up for it, and then all of a sudden, I still had this persona, I still had these tracks, and I was liking what I was writing. I was starting to write more dissonance again. I used to have a lot of equipment, and I sold it when I first had kids because it was all falling apart, it was old, I didn't have time anymore. And then I started rebuilding my equipment collection, and that's when this stuff Tentacles came back. For the longest time, I was actually writing music on Nintendo DS systems. I'm sorry, I'm really rambling.
Oh, really? No, you can ramble. You can keep going. You're good.
But yeah, essentially, Dr. Tentacles is sort of, if I have to wear, I'm neurodivergent. I'm not sure if you realize that I'm not a normal thinker just by looking at me. But I actually have anxiety. I take medication for anxiety. I've had social anxiety my whole life. And I had to take theater in college and high school to learn how to look at people without looking at them. Even today, I still close my eyes when I talk to people. So I had to learn to wear a mask to interact with people. That's how I had to survive. And so if I have to wear a mask, why not wear the mask I want to, regardless of what people think of it? And that's just it. This is an expression of who I truly am, I feel.
I love that that's kind of the direction that you went to overcome that because I, believe it or not, also have social anxiety, but I don't go like I people know that I have social anxiety, but I had to create my own mask too, and I had inauthentic masks for a number of years. And I actually like to the point of like, having TMJ because I'm sitting there like I need to smile, I need to do these things. Yeah, look at me. Like I'm here, I'm interacting, but I'm like also over here in my head. So I totally understand what you're saying with that. And I love that you went the direction of creating an actual mask instead of a mental mask for being out and especially performing because I'm great on camera. I'm good on camera. You put me on the stage, it's a whole different story. So yeah. I'm glad that this gives you the freedom to perform. And like bringing that forward, I would love to hear what a Dr. Tentacles show is like.
Well, I do have a live album. That's the one that had the track that went viral in India. It's called Live at Sociable Ghost 2021. It's on Spotify now, or you can buy it on my Bandcamp. I get better paid for that anyways. I think I sell it for like $2-3. I don't know. Pay what you want to for it. And it's about a good 2 hours long because apparently I was doing so well that the guy who was supposed to perform after me didn't want to go on yet because he wanted to keep watching me. So 2 hours later, I'm like, "Hey, am I done yet?" My cousin's like, "It's been 2 hours." I'm like, "Well, what the hell?" But yeah, go check out that album. It's also very well recorded. We had a great sound crew there, so it's definitely a quality performance. You can also hear the crowd too. It's awesome. Awesome. Definitely check it out.
Very cool. Very cool. Like, I love that, like, someone was on after you and was like, no, hold on. This guy needs to finish his masterpiece, his grand opus on this stage before I can even go up there. That's actually a really cool response because I feel like usually at a show, people are like, all right, when's this guy over? When am I going up next? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's very much an ode to you and your craft. So I want to circle back around. You mentioned something about a video game, and a video game from the Amazing Dr. Tentacles must be an interesting concept. So I guess my question is, what's the video game and are you scoring it?
Yes, this video game is a horror game. It's a 2D horror game called Slasher. The slash and then the letter R. It's pronounced Slasher. You play as a female stuck in a mansion being pursued by a malevolent force, and you have to find four truths in order to escape and reach your true destiny. And that's all I'll say, but I will say it's psychological horror. If you're a fan of David Lynch, Silent Hill, those sort of games, you'll probably very much enjoy it. I did do the entire score for it. It's very creepy. It moves from really spooky breakbeat to very intense, dissonant industrial. I have selections from the soundtrack you can stream for free at my SoundCloud right now. That's yo.tentacles.soundcloud.com. And as well as that, the game is about 80% complete. The final stage is being made. Basically, the game, you have to hide from this malevolent force in order to escape it. You can also escape by electrocuting it or hiding in a refrigerator. Or it's fantastic. I think people will really enjoy it. It has a lot of story, but it's also very much a gamer's game. So,
I'm excited. You'll have to keep me posted when this is like done and ready to go out because that sounds like a lot of fun.
There are some gameplay videos that are up now. I think I shared some on my threads, but if you look for negative development on YouTube, there's actually some gameplay demos up right now. So
awesome. So, Doctor, we are coming up to the end of the interview, and I have a question that I ask every single person on here. And that question is, and you can take this in any direction that you would like, for someone that is getting into music now, what would be your advice? And you can take this in any direction. It's a very big question.
I would say don't put too much stock into what others think of you. Because if you do that, you're just going to be chasing trends. And the whole point of disrupting things is to go against the grain. Mm-hmm. So nothing changes until someone turns around and goes against the way. So I chased a lot of trends for years, and while it was great, I didn't feel it was truly me. It didn't satisfy me having to please someone else. Here's the thing, though. If you please yourself and you get really good at just making the music that defines you, people are going to come. To quote Archimedes, give me some place to stand and watch me move the world.
That's great advice. I love that you have that quote right off the bat because that's a great one. So, Dr. Tentacles, I guess the biggest lastest question is the promoting question. So, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? And where can people, I guess, keep tabs on when the video game's coming out?
I'm on Threads. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Yo Dr. Tentacles, YO Dr. Tentacles, DR Tentacles. You can also find me on Spotify if you look for the amazing Dr. Tentacles. I also have a link tree with all my links in a convenient location. And right now, I have a single coming out Friday called Arctic Zombie Virus. If you go to my Bandcamp, yo.drtentacles.bandcamp.com, you will actually can get that track for free. And you will also can get my whole discography for $5. Get caught up. That'll include that live album I told you about.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, Dr. Tentacles. This was such a fun interview, and like you have so many different, I guess, areas that you've researched. I'm also a researcher. I like to learn a lot. So I'm glad that we were able to like, get into a lot of different topics today.
That was the pleasure's all mine, Celia. Thank you so much.
No problem, no problem. So for everyone watching, make sure that you guys check out Dr. Tentacles, and I will see you on the next one.
See you later.